Yo, friends, and Camp Solana campers, and other people that lost their way and ended up here. Happy Thursday. This is actually a happy Thursday, and this I always say happy, but I think most of the time it's maybe mediocre. Content maybe would be you'd settle for content, but I would say happy actually applies today because of the news that XRP was ruled to be not a security, which kind of paves the way for Sol to not be a security, for NFT projects to not be a security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's huge news. I hope it sticks. I hope the ruling sticks, and at least for now, it is a great reason for optimism in the space, and we needed it. We've had this kind of cloud hanging over us, this just looming ominously for a while now, and Sol has been doing well despite it, really. But now it just gives you that feeling like, okay, that was a major hurdle that we needed to clear, and we did. So what's next? On the well, in all fronts, really. Today, I wanted to actually show you guys some things rather than just talking about things. I know you love it when I just drone on for hours and not have any visual component whatsoever. But today, I wanted to share some tools with you that we have, even if they're not completely, presentable in their current state. But I think they mostly are. But I just want to give you a little bit of a look sort of behind the curtain. And we'll start with Camp and our new customizer, the version 2 customizer, which is fully animated. If you recall, season 1 of Camp, the customizer was static. And once you made your choices, then the animation was created. Now, not only do we have a live preview, but there are multiple animations and you can switch between them. Right now I've gone from happy to confident, and otherwise all the drop down menus similar to last time. I like to use the shuffle and just see what comes up randomly. If you're the type that wants to painstakingly go through all of the drop down menus, go for it. But you might like to just shuffle until you find one that you like. We use this so that we can identify problems. Let's see if I can find I probably can't find any because it's just so bulletproof. But it's also fun to use it, I think, just in general anyways. So I can see there the libret, like it pops, right? So just yeah, I can see it popping there too. So anyways, we use it as a quality control thing. We use it pre-mint as well when we work for any collections, helping them with their art, which is something we want to do way more of. This system works with static art, and it just gives you a chance to see very quickly thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of potential combinations, see which ones don't work together. And when you find some that don't work together, then we write logic so that those traits never happen together if we can't make them work art-wise, which does happen from time to time. We would love to do more static art services for collections. A lot of them have artists already, but if you're not just turning over the art to a launch pad, if you don't have a launch pad arranged, then it can be very time consuming to try and build the system out. We have it. It works for animation, but it also works perfectly for static. So it's a cool tool. Also, it gives you a sense, like when I'm shuffling through these now, I feel like there's quite a bit of variety in here, and I'm looking, of course, at all the same animations. If I want to go down to switch up the animations, there are 4 in here right now. There actually will be 6, including a GM animation and a W animation. And the idea that is that this is sort of our prototype for the sticker pack, where you choose your animations. You can download your animations, and then you can use your animations on Twitter on a daily basis if you want. So you customize your camper the way you want them, and then you have access to these different animations that either portray a particular emotion. In this case, this one is stone, but there's also scared, which you'll recognize. That's the animation from season 1. There's happy, and there's confident. But like I say, we're also going to add GM and a W. And, this can apply to any collection, really. It would be awesome with any collection to have those options to make a PFP purchase. And with it, you get this sticker pack. We've been talking about this for quite a while, but we wanted to put it in play in the context of this customizer, so it's all things together. And as much as this is a fun utility for camp, it's also something that we will use as a sales tool going forward. And yeah, there are a bunch of additional trade options that we've added art-wise to. They're looking pretty wild. When you look at them and you're like, man, that's they look like a train wreck. That just screams teenager to me. Train wreck. They're meant to be teens. I think that works. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with this dude, but I love it. So anyways, this is the Camp Customizer 2.0 sneak peek. And this is going to be live very soon with a few small changes, and I'm sure the UI is going to change a little bit. But sometime here in the next couple days, you'll be able to start to customize your campers again after, of course, they're registered. The registration, we've been testing it this week. It works great. A couple little things to clean up there just in terms of the presentation. And we should be rolling on that very soon. We said this week, and that's still going to happen. So really excited about that. Another thing that I wanted to show you is the queue system that we have for animating full collections. You might be thinking about animating a collection if you're a founder. This would be maybe sort of something that would put your mind a bit at ease in terms of seeing what the process is. We take the art, we break it down, we animate it, but a key part of it is the review and the revisions. And you may think, oh, am I just going to get a giant zip file with 9,000 animations in it? And it's just like, hope you like it. We actually have a really robust review system that Jeff built, and I wanted to show that to you. So here it is. It's wallet gated. It functions within the 42 Hamster site. And I'm going to use Valhalla as an example here and just show you a little bit about how this works. By default, they're static until you mouse over, and we have some functions here. So we have render. That's typically if it hasn't been rendered or if a fix has just been uploaded and it needs to be re-rendered. You render again. You can delete. You can flag for review. And that's really the main... This is the most important part of it, is to review all these pieces, which takes many hours, obviously. And anytime you see a problem, you would flag it. So let's say for example, that I saw a problem here, something going on with the layering of the pink pill. Okay, I wanted that to be some change to that. So the first thing that I would do is flag it. And the next thing that I would do is check to see, number one, what the trait itself is called. So if I use this inspect tool, it pulls up all of the traits. Now I can see, okay, it's weapon pill pink. Now I'm going to open up these filters here. I'm going to go to weapon, and I'm going to choose pill pink, and now it's going to filter the entire collection for all of the pill pinks. And I can see that there's 101 of them total out of the 9,000 total Valhallas. And I can review each of these to see if the issue that's going on with this one, if it is happening with all of them, if it's happening with a few of them. And let's just say, for example, it's happening with this guy, it's happening with this guy, and it's happening with her. So now I've flagged a few, okay? And I know the rest are fine. And here now I can show the flagged. So now I'm looking at ones that I've flagged for whatever reason as being problematic. And this serves as sort of a to-do list, which really has two purposes. One of them is for us. We know these are the ones we have to fix, and so we work through them. And the other one is for the client to be able to take a look and see how many are problematic, how many are in progress. And if they find a problem within the collection and it's not flagged, then they need to flag it. If it is flagged, then they don't need to worry about it because we've already caught it. So it's an important part of the process when both things are happening at the same time. Like, we're constantly reviewing and revising, but there just are so many, and we always encourage our clients to be reviewing as well because it's such a huge job. So we will do it all, but it's nice to have help. And if you're a team member of a project, you know the art intimately, you know exactly how everything is meant to be layered. We get immersed in that, but we don't always know exactly what it looks like. And so that can be really helpful to have team help on that side. And this whole system is what does that. So it makes it all possible. There's a few little options here. We have autoplay on. This way they're all playing and you can review much faster with autoplay on. It's just a bit of a resource hog. And yeah, you can sort based on the most recently rendered. It's a cool tool. You can you have a million filtering options. You can organize them differently. Very cool tool. And like I said, something that you don't necessarily know that you're going to get, but it's just a really nice quality of life thing. So we get clients and then we show them, hey, this is how you get to review it. They're like, whoa, this is awesome. They just weren't expecting this. So Jeff really made this for Valhalla. He made it prior, a lesser version, but had to beef it up for Valhalla because the review process was insane and took many, many weeks because of the nature of the art, which you can't really tell necessarily, but there are shadows for everything. There's a shadow for all of the hats. There's a shadow for all of the different hair. There's all kinds of shadows going on, and there are different colors based on the different colors of hair. So you have thousands of variations of shadows, which all need to be paired with the associated trait and also move with the associated trait. And yeah, it's there's just an insane level of detail that goes into that, and it gets really important to review. And we spent hundreds of hours reviewing the collection, and this system made it easier. So I just wanted to show you guys a bit about that. And also, Jeff takes this framework and then, he applies some of these things to camp. So all of these things that get built, they all tend to end up being building blocks for something else down the road. So I think, sort of like a year later, when I think back to last summer when we were working on Stoned Ape crew and the Nuked Apes, like I wish we had this, because we we were really rushed, and the review process was much different, much different. And we spent weeks after delivery, dealing with tickets and individual little issues that popped up here and there because the review process was so rushed, and it didn't have this level of organization. So far fewer problems sneak through the cracks. I think we've revised maybe 6 of the 9K Valhallas, and it's been probably 3 weeks since there's been something to revise. So that just speaks to, number one, the level of care with which we reviewed and the Valhalla team reviewed, and number two, with the efficiency of this queue system. So I wanted to show you a bit about that. A couple other cool features of the queue system is the ability to inspect and view original. So this is really handy if you're wanting to make sure that the animated version looks like the original. So you can check it real quick through that little utility, and also you can download an MP4 of each rendered animation if you want to look at it more closely in a larger format than through the browser. You can do that. So lots of great features to this tool. It's awesome. Also, it is nice to have it being wallet gated. You don't have to worry about outsiders getting in. And excuse me, if you have someone on your team that's like a heavy drinker and you don't want to give them access to the delete function, then you can set the permissions where they can only flag and inspect and not delete and render. So it took a lot of convincing for Jeff to give me these permissions, and I feel like he may revoke those at any moment. But so if you have someone sketchy like me on the team, you have some protection built in there in terms of the permissions. So that's pretty cool. Another tool that's really handy is the bulk tool. Let's say, for example, you identified a problem that impacted all of, let's say, the human medium males. There are 1,500 of these guys. You would not want to manually click to render each one of those. That would not be a good time. Wouldn't be a good use of your time. So in order to not have that happen, Jeff has built these bulk tools, which are really handy. So you can select when you're in bulk mode. If there are only some, and some of them are fine, you want to skip them, you can do that. Or you can just hit this sweep, which will grab all 1,500 of these guys. Not just this visible page right now, but all of them on the other pages as well. If I go ahead to page 3, just to prove it, they're all selected as well. At this point, you can clear the selection. You can re-render all of them. If they weren't rendered, then you could initially render them. These ones are already rendered. This would be a re-render, or you could bulk delete. You don't want to accidentally bulk delete. You don't want to be like hovering over this like I am and then accidentally click it. You know what I mean? Don't do that. That's bad. But yeah, this is the bulk version of the tool. Again, super robust, and some of this bulk tool gets used in camp. That's how they get moved around the map. All of these things build off of each other, and over time, they just get better and more useful. And that's kind of the name of the game. So just wanted to show you the bulk tools portion of the queue system as well. On the Pen Friends front and the art update front, we've been talking about this for a long time, and really our hope was that Amazon would launch, that we would have a bit of a treasury, and that we could really focus on pen friends for a while and not worry so much about client work and trying to keep the lights on. You know, we were being coy about it, and I don't think I'm necessarily violating an NDA to say that we signed a deal to animate 12 collections over 2 years. And obviously that was going to put us in a reasonably comfortable position, provided that those collections did well, where for really the first time since we minted, we'd be in a position where we could focus almost entirely on our own development of pen friends and camp, and not worry so much about client work for a while, because we'd have a bit of a cushion that we haven't had. So we were really excited about that. We animated the first 2. The launch has not happened, so we never got $1. We spent many weeks working on that stuff, and haven't seen anything for it. So in some ways, it's actually worse than if we had just been doing client work, because then we would have been paid for that work. Instead of having this treasury, we spent those weeks not doing something that we got paid for. And so that put us in a bit of a worse position. So if you're wondering why it's taking so long, that's the main reason, is that we need to work on other things to keep it rolling. We have some full-time people. We have 2 full-time people other than the core team. And they need to be paid every week. You can't just miss payments to staff. That's bad. That's you'll get a bad review on Glassdoor for that. And anyways, the other thing I would say about the art update is that over this period of time, like, you look at other collections and it either doesn't move the needle, or mostly people are disappointed. No matter what it looks like, they're mostly disappointed, and there's just kind of a disconnect between, other than D-Gods and Dead Gods. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the D-Gods art was bad to begin with. At least I didn't like the original. Maybe it's just me. But I think that sentiment was pretty common, that the D-Gods art wasn't very good. And the Dead Gods art was. So it was that made a lot of sense. And also, it was way edgier, too, which I think helped. But as we've been looking at this for months, and Jay made a bunch of art, and we've been monitoring these other collections that have done these art upgrades, and we're kind of in the mode of, is this really a good idea? I'll show you a little bit. For example, this guy, obviously the animation is really rough, the mouth's kind of floaty, but a much more realistic version. Jay painted these. They have a different look. They look great, to be honest. But are there already too many realistic looking human PFPs out there? Is it really differentiated enough? Is it too different from the original? These questions all come up all the time. So I'll give you another example here. This guy, just another sample of, how different, how similar. This is a more realistic version of the Pen Friends. We do like it, and I think we'll use this style at some point. But I think we haven't been 100% convinced that this is the way to go. And more recently, Jay drew the recently divorced Kevins, which are like leaning into the cartooning. It's like Pen Friends, but exaggerated, which is all, and they're kind of they're rough. They're cool. And he does that, and then we're like, is that the way we should go? but I think where we're at, and I'd love to hear your feedback, but I think where we're at is that the fundamental style changes for a collection's art, they generally don't work. There are very few exceptions, but generally they don't work, especially if you are considered sort of OG, which I think we are at this point. You don't want them to be unrecognizable. So I think what we're thinking at this point is that we would prefer to expand trait options to make pen friends customizable and to reanimate the collection. So that's what we're working towards right now, is to use the existing art, which we do really like, make it move in a way that's you know in line with the work that we're doing in terms of like Valhalla and other PFPs, where it's a smoother movement. We got a bit of a head turn in there, and create a sticker pack like we've got going with Camp Solana, but for pen friends. That we don't necessarily need a fundamental style change. It would be nice to have some more trait options. It would be nice to have customization, and it would be nice to have multiple good looking animations. And I think that's the best option. That's kind of where our heads are at right now, in terms, instead of fundamentally changing the art style. We'll use these art styles, and that's something that we want to get into. To be honest, we really enjoy the art side. We really enjoy creating collections. That's a fun bit of work, and we would like to do degen mints. We would like to do them semi regularly, just $1, $2, $3 degen mints, and pump out these small collections that and give them a utility, which would be a sort of arcade style degen Olympics. If any of you are old enough to have played California games, summer games, winter games, those old school games, that you would play through a series of events, and the entire thing would take like 10 to 15 minutes because each event was timed. So you're not asking for too much time. You're not committing to too much time. You're going to do a run, and it's going to take that amount of time, and that's it. And the idea is that it would be a series of mini games that would be degen themed, and obviously animated, and we would inject some humor in there wherever possible, and sort of just create this place to go every day, if you want to, and compete for some prizes and play these games and flex the results on Twitter, and think of it as a little arcade that you visit. And over time, we would expand it so that, well, I used to spend 10 minutes a day here, and now I spend 30, and so on, right? Or yesterday I played this version. Today I'm going to play through this one. We can cycle things out, but the idea of making degen mints, we really like that whole process. That's fun to us. We feel like it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be just mildly profitable is fine. And same thing with the games. We like making the games. So if we can make those two things, create this sort of gaming environment, and also have these mints that are playable within the degen Olympics, that would give them a little bit of utility beyond just the PFP art. That would be interesting to us, and also protect us a little bit, because right now our biggest vulnerability is that client work is, you can't necessarily rely on it. Right now, if we don't have a full collection to animate, what are we doing? Are we trying to survive on individual PFPs? There's no margin there. So it doesn't really make much sense. In terms of like hype and narrative videos now, we're in a weird place where projects seem to either be spending $300,000 on them or not doing them at all. So we're hugely reliant on, we're too reliant on clients for collection work, and I still want to do that, and I think there's a huge future there, especially when the bull comes back. But we're too reliant on that right now, so we need to diversify, and we need to be our own best client, and that's what camp is about, and that's what potentially these DGen Olympics that we're planning right now are about, where it's like, okay, we can be sustainable on our own with those things, and we can scale up whenever needed to do collection or any other work, but we're more self-sufficient. I don't mind doing, some people hate client work. I don't mind doing it. But really, in a perfect world, it's nice to not need it. So that's where I want to head. I think that there's a huge upside there, especially as the user numbers start to grow again. Excuse me. And the work itself is like just fun, and that's honestly key. Like, morale is huge. If you're not really making money, at least you're having a good time. if you're not making any money and not having a good time, that's hugely problematic. So I think over the next 6 months, that looks like a way forward for us, is to lean into making some games that all tie together and making art, because that's what we really love to do. And we just want to do more of that and do it consistently, and not try and cash grab hundreds of thousands of dollars, but at the same time earn enough that we're not living on the street, and that we can be consistent with rev share. With Amazon, waiting in the wings, we haven't been able to rev share in a few months, and that weighs on us. So this looks like a interesting way forward for us, where we can do enjoyable work, make some money, keep some rev share flowing, and see what happens. At that point, if Amazon gets back in the game, it's gonna feel great. That'll be sort of gravy, where again, it's like the conditions force us into adapting and finding a way to be sustainable even in the worst possible conditions. As we talk about doing DGen Mints and DGen Olympics and things like that, I think you can get the sense that we view NFTs fundamentally differently than some really big projects out there that truly believe that they can deliver value at $50,000 per NFT or higher, or even lower to some extent. And we've seen a huge collapse in the last month or so in those so-called blue chip values, and that has given rise to a lot of sentiment of NFTs are dead and it's all over and the system's broken and no one cares and blah, 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 blah. I don't look at it like that at all. I don't think you can really deliver value at those levels. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I think there was like, those things came back to earth a little bit, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that there's sort of a range in which they should be. And in terms of the value, unless they're hugely culturally relevant or important in some way, outside of that, you really just have, it's just pure speculation, and that's a really shaky ground to be on, obviously. So I we don't look at that and say, oh man, like now Pen Friends will never be worth 50 grand. That was never our goal. We never envisioned that. Maybe that's bad to say, I don't know. But I think that there's a range of, now there might be mass adoption, right? Because if those other things make it seem like we're all insane. If people are spending $1 million on a JPEG, like, to me, that makes it less likely for people to come into the space because they think we're all crazy, and we probably are. But I think the future is at the other end of the spectrum, where you have, collectibles that are affordable, that are not necessarily status symbols, that there is a way huger market for fun, collectability, for games, and for sort of, lower level trading. There's a lower barrier for entry, and you might get into an ecosystem for $10, and I think as we look ahead at the next 100 million people that come into NFTs, it's way more likely, if we're talking about these lower entries, that you can still get value for. It's not just garbage. It's going to enable you to do something with it, and you might have a rise in value. It might not be 10,000x, but that doesn't matter, because we're not like, we've shifted our thinking. We're not in terms of this is going to be the next thing, the next big thing, for reasons unknown, just because like a whale decided it was going to be that. This is now about, can you deliver value with fewer resources? And the ones that do in this, especially right now, the ones that deliver that, you're miles ahead of the game as we move forward. If you're out there operating with millions of dollars, you're just going to think you're always going to have that, and you may not. It's easy to deliver stuff with that kind of money. Super easy. Give us $1 million sometime and see what happens. It's harder to be at the other end, but it sets you up better for what's to come, because I think the future of this space, like I say, is at the closer to the degen end of things than it is to the Bored Ape end of things. Not to say Pen Friends can't grow in value significantly over time, but I'm perfectly comfortable, living in a world where there are no NFTs that are worth more than 25 grand. Perfectly comfortable, because I don't think that's not the point, from my perspective anyway. I guess for the pure traders and speculators, they don't want to hear that. But for those of us that are trying to do something more interesting and trying to move the entire space forward in terms of what we do and for who, and in what capacity, like, it's that those are the things that are more important than having this massive upside. If you think of it now, like, there's a glass ceiling at some level where there wasn't before, because no one is going to spend $1 million anymore on a PFP. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Not at all. Because we need to be looking at it in terms of how many of the next 100 million people that come in am I going to appeal to, and in what ways? And, if the average, if half of those 100 million people spend $1 in some part of your ecosystem, you're doing okay. So I know that's a wildly optimistic number, but you see what I'm getting at. That there is, because the ecosystem is so small, it's really just been about how you can't do volume, right? You can't be Walmart, so you have to be like a bespoke tailor and look for those types of prices. But that's not always going to be the case. That we will end up being in a market where you can be a Walmart. You know, you can be selling $4 t-shirts and making great money on volume. Those days are coming, and I think these ones that are set up, maybe they'll do great still too. I don't know, but I don't look at that. This is a very long-winded way, as I do, of saying I don't look at that crash in value that happened with Bored Apes and Azuki and all that as being actually negative. I think it's actually a positive. The more reasonable that the values are out there, makes us all look a little more sane, and also you know, just lowers that barrier for entry. We need more people. We need fresh people, and that helps. I wanted to also just quickly say thank you to all of you diamond-handed PFers who have been just holding on to their pen friends is almost a stable coin at this point. If you minted for 1 SOL, you got your 1 SOL back through the year. And now, you know, the USD is right is the USD price of pen friends is right around what the mint was, which makes it truly free, you know, better than free, really. It was free after the last rev share, and what that means to me is that everybody that minted and stayed made money, and I'm happy for that. What I'd like to do next is make sure that people that bought above the current floor price make money. So we gotta keep going. We gotta drive participation through camp as much as possible. We figured that Amazon was going to be a bit of a splash for us that would raise our profile on Solana, and that didn't happen. So that's unfortunate, but it may yet still happen. And in the meantime, we just keep building, keep working, keep pivoting as needed, and keep making cool shit, like some of the tools that I outlined for you today. Any questions? As always, let me know. Anything you want me to drone on about in the next one of these, let me know. And if any of you actually made it this far, kudos. As always, love you guys. Pen friends for life.